trying to think of like having on medical shit and like I've known you for a long time. So like what did I used to ask you?
Yeah, anything that you've asked me or you wonder about like how it affects social, mental, spiritual, romantic, friendship, like anything, professional. Because it does, and we just don't talk about it. Or, pop culture, you just see it's like Fault in Our Stars, or the really dramatic, the girl's dying and he finally professes his love, or like something equally epic,
He's
and it's
dying
like,
too, so it's fine.
and what about it's like, hey, it's raining and my hip's torn, I have to stand in line at the DMV. That's the stuff you actually have to deal with. Sadly, you don't have like Jamie Dornan bursting through the doors of your hospital to see if you
about that. Like, what has like been the biggest misconception, either with like entertainment or Hollywood, that people that are sick or have like chronic pain like are?
I can tell you because I was legitimately like disappointed and sad when I found out it was not true. Having grown up on like Grey's Anatomy and all those shows, a patient comes in, you don't know what's wrong with them, and even if they don't 100% solve it by the end of the hour, they do everything. They run every test. They care. They sleep in the room. Like the doctors, the staff, everybody does everything in their power, and then usually they figure it out, or they can kind of like figure out a treatment plan, or they keep you around until they do. And that is absolutely not the case. There is no treatment system in our country for somebody with chronic pain that has a flare-up or emergent condition or an injury. You just have to go to the ER like everybody else. The ER kind of looks at you and they're like, this isn't life-threatening and it's not our job, which they're right. Like they have to prioritize other things. So they just will run the basic tests on you and get you out of there as quickly as possible, give you some pain meds, run you an IV, and get you out of there and tell you to follow up with a specialist. And then it's like days before you can make an appointment. And then the specialist usually orders somewhere, and it just like starts this whole process. And none of it is quick, or none of it is accounted for the fact that you're in pain right now. And so when I first started to get sick, and they started throwing around the words like, I've had doctors refer to me as a medical anomaly, or they would just say, unspecified this, or we think it's autoimmune, or we think it's X, Y, and Z, but, you're not 100% sure. I always expected the Dr. House treatment. I expected more, and when it was just like the buck stops here, and then when you also threw insurance and finance in the mix and how much that complicated everything, which it really, 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 really does, I was just like baffled, honestly, and kind of hurt and surprised and confused and bewildered, and just like, but you're the healers, you're the healthcare system. Care is literally in the title of your industry, and you are just so indifferent. You could not care less about. It's just like, wash your hands and it's on to the next person's problem, and you just put me out of your mind. And you know what it is I just realized that this healthcare system, I think more and more, working in marketing, and you see with the disruptors and Uber and Airbnb, and it's because that the customers are the ones demanding the change, right? Like businesses are now orienting themselves to be easier and better for the customer. We have a healthcare system that is not even the slightest built with the patient in mind. It's actually constructed in a way to make things more stressful for the patient and harder and financially incredibly expensive. And the patient has nothing to do with the way our system is built. And that's insane. If you kind of think about it that way, you're like, isn't the patient the customer and the client and kind of the boss and like, everything actually? And no, we're just like disregarded. So that was a huge shock to me. The whole, romantic aspect was a fun little surprise later on, that it's actually romance is not like sweeping and grand when you have a condition like this. It's complicated and messy and hard and heartbreaking. It's still good, but like, yeah. So I think that Dr. House, Grey's Anatomy, like, we will treat you until we cure you, damn it, like that. Finding out that's very, very far from the reality. That was probably...
I honestly thought you said there are no hot doctors.